Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is my third day in a row recording, fourth day in a row uploading, and I am so proud of myself. I'm so happy and so excited that you're here today. Now, I know that I'm going to ruffle some feathers with what it is that I have to share today. I'm sure the title drew some of you in and has you thinking, what the hell is she talking about? And just let me cook, let me explain, I'm gonna break it down for you, and you're gonna come away from this video with a completely different consciousness around women's rights and women's autonomy. So, and this is something that I've spoken about in my work, and this is something I've talked with clients about or even had conversations with friends about. And it's something that I feel is very, very important to discuss. And I don't think that this perspective, this lens that I'm coming from is talked about enough. And so I trust that at the end of this video, you're actually going to feel a lot better about what women are experiencing politically, at least here in the West. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the title is going to be, but something along the lines of women are not losing our rights. We are actually regaining, reclaiming our freedom, our autonomy, our sovereignty, something like that. And the reason why I feel that way is because everything that I say, everything that I teach, everything that I do, how I live my life, how I embody my own energy and my own frequency comes from a spiritual lens or a metaphysical lens and my understanding of spirituality and energy. And so there are so many massive spiritual energetic shifts that are happening in the collective right now. And we're seeing this reflected in politics. We're seeing this reflected in socio-political issues. And something that's been really present, really heavy in the minds and hearts of women, especially women who more so identify as liberal or left-leaning from a political lens, is this very real belief, this very real fear that our rights as women are under attack, especially our reproductive rights as women are under attack. And I absolutely understand and recognize why women feel that way. And this is a belief and a consciousness that I myself have held previously that I no longer hold. And so what I want to share about this is that first, recognizing that, like I was just saying a moment ago, there are so many spiritual shifts that are happening in the collective right now. And one of the things that you hear talked about a lot, whether we're coming from a spiritual lens, political lens, a combination of those two, is that people want the system to go. People want the system to collapse. They want the system to break down. People are not happy with the system. And like when I say the system, we can be talking about any system, political systems, capitalism, patriarchy, racism, white supremacy, whatever, pick your poison, and we can talk about that. People say the system isn't working and we want the system to go. We need to burn it to the ground. And what we are experiencing is the result of exactly what it is that we are asking for. We are seeing the collapse of these systems. And so when it comes to the reproductive rights and the reproductive autonomy of women, the first thing that I'm going to say, which I'm going to expand upon in this video, is that your rights are not dependent upon the actions of the government. Okay? As a woman, as a sovereign being, as a sovereign woman, your rights to your body are not dependent upon the actions of the government. And I know it's hard to hear what it is that I'm saying and reconcile that with maybe the way that you're feeling, especially if you are in a fear state, if you are in a reactive state because of some of the things that are happening with, whoever's president, because this is something that this idea that our rights are under attack, it doesn't matter who is in office. This is a hamster wheel that women have been kept on for the last 40 plus years, right? And so it's an issue that keeps women locked into the energy siphoning that comes from our political system. And so when I say that your rights are not dependent upon the government, or your rights are not determined by the government, what I mean is that when we see and I have to be kind of careful with the language that I use because I don't want this video to get censored, and I don't intend on editing this in any way. I'm just posting and recording and uploading. But, terminating, something that's happening within our womb space. I think you understand what I'm talking about when it comes to, this issue, which is the biggest issue that women are talking about right now as far as our rights go. They think that because the government says no, that you don't have the ability to do that. They think that because the government says it only can happen within certain parameters, that you are bound by these things. And what I'm here to share with you and to teach you is that the reason why women are feeling this way is because women are disempowered. And this system, this political system that we have, is working exactly as it's designed. It is designed to keep you feeling disempowered. It is designed to keep you feeling like whatever is happening in the government will determine your freedom to live your life and make decisions about your body, which simply isn't the case. What's actually happening right now is women are being confronted with the fact that we have abdicated our power. We have abdicated our autonomy. We have abdicated our sovereignty to governments. And yes, we can talk about the construction of patriarchal systems and how we got to this place over the last several hundred years or even few millennia. All of that can be discussed. But what it comes down to is what is happening right now is that women are being given the opportunity to see that what's happening politically is an indicator that we are disempowered, and this is our opportunity to reclaim our power. So I'm going to tell you a little story. A few months ago, I was invited by a woman who is the leader of a cohort of doulas. They had all just gone through this process of learning to become doulas, and they were all basically like in an accountability group together. And she invited me in to come and talk to all of these women because she was saying that, the women that are in this space, they're scared, they're angry, they're frustrated about what's going on. And can you just help gather us up and tell us what we need to know so that we can move into this work of serving, mothers and babies without feeling like the sky is falling around us. And so one of the things that I shared with her and this group of new doulas, of fresh doulas, is that we as women have a responsibility to reclaim our sovereignty from this system. And doulas and some midwives, to a certain extent, are helping to facilitate this work by advocating for women who have been taught to give their power and to give their authority over to the allopathic medical model, the medical system, which is basically co-opted and stolen birth from women, and not just birth, the entire reproductive process. So pregnancy prevention, family planning, pregnancy, birth, postpartum, all of these things, termination, all of these things have been completely co-opted by the allopathic medical model, which is a very patriarchal system. And so in speaking with these women, what I was doing was speaking life into them around the role that they have, the role that they have chosen to take on, the mission that they've chosen to take on in supporting the autonomy of these women, but also recognizing that what they're doing is, in some ways, especially women who are going into like the midwifery profession, are still choosing to engage within the parameters of this system, which greatly reduces the amount of power and sovereignty that you have. From a spiritual lens, what we are seeing reflected in the political shifts is a reminder that these are the consequences of women not knowing who we are. These are the consequences of women not knowing our power, not knowing, not being connected to nature, not being connected to spirit, not being connected to all of the resources that we have available to us as women, as stewards of this land, as stewards of nature that are here to help assist us in our reproductive choices, if you know what I'm saying. And if you don't know what I'm saying, just keep listening. So this idea that if a woman becomes pregnant and doesn't want to be anymore, that she has to rely on this medical system or on the permission of Big Daddy government to have the opportunity to end this experience that she's currently in, that is a result of women being disconnected from our autonomy and disconnected from our power. Because since the beginning of time, women have controlled our own reproduction. We have controlled our own reproduction by having conscious awareness of our power, being spiritually aligned and attuned to our womb space, being spiritually aligned and attuned to nature and all of the gifts of nature that help support us in our reproductive choices. But we have lost access to these things, and we have given our authority over to these doctors, these nurses, these midwives, even these government officials to say, you know what's best for me. And when you give your power away, when you give your autonomy away to an outside entity, you externalize your power. You don't get to decide what happens with the power that you have abdicated. And so what I teach these women, what I teach women in my spaces, what I teach women who come to me for one-on-one work as my clients is that if you want to truly have your power back, you have to disengage from these systems. You have to disengage from these entities and structures that you have given your power to, and you have to return to the knowledge of yourself. You have to return to the understanding of who you are and what your abilities are, what your capabilities are, and what resources you have around you that are designed to support you in your autonomy and support you in your sovereignty. Do you see what I'm saying? And so rather than spending all of your energy demanding that a certain official who has a certain political leaning gets elected in order for you to have your power, what you're being asked and really pushed by spirit to do is to recognize that this outside source, this outside person or entity does not have your best interests at heart. And we have so much evidence in our face. It's why I was saying before that, you know, this hamster wheel that women have been on for the last several decades around, you know, these wedge issues of reproductive rights, they're designed to make you feel disempowered and to keep you disempowered so that you can continue to be a resource for these external forces to extract from. And so what does regaining your power look like? What regaining your power looks like is recognizing that it doesn't matter which side you're on. Both sides, whether it's red, blue, left, right, you know, conservative, liberal, they're all at the end of the day operating from the same agenda. You know, Andrea Dworkin, who is a powerful radical feminist from the 70s and 80s, she's written so many amazing books breaking all of this down of how there is no love or care for the power of women, regardless of political affiliation. One of the things that she talks about, and I believe it's in her book, Right Wing Women, she talks about how these different political groups view ownership of women, or they view women as property, essentially. And so on the right, women are considered private property, whereas on the left, women are considered public property. And so for the women who are suffering right now and who are scared and are feeling, powerlessness in these circumstances, ask yourself how being connected to these political groups is helping you, because neither side cares about women, and neither side cares about women's rights or women's power. And so if you want to have true power, it's about recognizing that walking into these systems, walking into these hospitals and walking into these clinics and being dependent upon these medical professionals who actually don't know anything about the natural flow of a woman's body, and giving them all of your power to decide how you were going to experience your reproductive autonomy, you were doing yourself a major disservice. And this is also one of the things that I talked about to this cohort of women who are doulas, is like, we talk about maternal mortality rates, especially in the Black community, how maternal and infant mortality rates in the United States are some of the worst in the world, despite the wealth, the obscene wealth that this country has. And Black women are dying in astronomical rates. Black babies are dying at astronomical rates. And rather than questioning whether or not we should be engaging with these systems in the first place, we're twisting ourselves into pretzels trying to make the system work for us, which is insanity. It's absolute insanity. And the reason why women are afraid of walking out of these systems and taking back their own power is because women are afraid of their power. And they have, for the little bit that women do know about our power, women, are not only afraid, we don't really understand what our power is. And this ignorance of self, this lack of knowledge of self is why we are ripe for the abuse that we are experiencing in the medical and political systems. And so when I say that women are not losing our rights, we're gaining our power, what I'm saying is that this illusion of rights is just an illusion, because it can be taken away from you at any time according to this system. And so if something can be taken away from you, it's not really a right. You have the right to autonomy and you have the right to sovereignty. And that was imbued in you by the divine, not the government, not men, not paperwork, not legal documents. But you right now are of the consciousness that the only way for you to have freedom and autonomy and rights is if somebody signs on a piece of paper and gives it to you. But women who are fully empowered and who are fully sovereign recognize and understand that there is no entity outside of themselves that has the power to grant them sovereignty over their own bodies. And that's the difference between women who are reclaiming their power and who are disengaging from these systems and who are teaching their sisters how to care for themselves, how to cycle sync, how to properly plan pregnancy, how to properly prevent pregnancy. And if you have an unwanted pregnancy, how you can take control of that pregnancy without involving the government in your business and in your life. And this is where a lot of women are doing themselves a disservice, is we are still involving the government in our lives and wondering why we feel so disempowered. So the solution for the fear that women are under when it comes to, reproductive rights or just rights as women in general is to come back into knowledge of ourselves and recognize where we're not taking responsibility for ourselves. Because I'm always going to talk about radical responsibility as being the foundation of healing yourself as a woman and also ascending into higher consciousness and ascending into higher expressions of sovereignty and power and independence. Because that radical responsibility is recognizing where you have abdicated your power, where you are living in fear consciousness, where you are afraid to take on the responsibility of really honoring yourself, knowing who you are, knowing how you've made it into the circumstances that you've made it into, not just as an individual woman, but the collective of women, and how to come back to a place where we're not depending on these systems for freedom. Because as I've said and will continue to say over and over and over again, when you abdicate your power to an external force, to an outside entity, you don't then get to decide or dictate how that power is used. And so taking that radical responsibility of, if I'm a woman living in this world and I don't want to be bound by legal doctrine or legal identity or legal ideas that are constantly in flux, constantly shifting every 2 years, every 4 years, having to be on this hamster wheel of rallying people to vote or getting mad at people for not voting in the way that I think that they should vote because I'm afraid that their vote is going to take away power away from me. Recognize how you are being abused. Recognize how you are being misled. Recognize how you are being siphoned from and how you are being manipulated to continue to use your life force to fuel a system that absolutely hates you. while needing you at the same time, because you are the portal that brings new consciousness into this world. And as the portal of consciousness, and understanding that consciousness is what creates reality, you have to change your consciousness to construct a new reality. And right now, your consciousness is telling you that I'm not free. Your consciousness is saying to yourself, I don't have power unless the person who has the blue or has the red is voted into office. I don't have power unless everybody in my family and all of my friends and all of my neighbors and everybody that I talk to and yell at on social media thinks the way that I think and votes the way that I do. And that is where you're doing yourself a disservice, and you're doing a disservice to the people around you. And you're in a constant state of anger. You're in a constant state of misery. You're in a constant state of fear, which is not healthy for you. It's not healthy for your nervous system. And it's not healthy for the people that you came into this world to impact in a really, really beautiful and profound way. So what I'm saying to you is, reclaim your autonomy, reclaim your sovereignty, reclaim your power by stepping outside of this system and recognizing that it is not here to help you. It is not here to serve you, and you don't need to depend on it to have freedom. You were born free. You are owed freedom. Freedom is your birthright. And it's not something that you have to fight for, and it's not something that you have to constantly push for or worse, vote for every 2 years or every 4 years to maintain a hold on to. Freedom is a choice that you make in recognizing that nothing outside of you has control over you. And that we as women, as the embodiment of the divine feminine, we are abundant, and everything that we need, everything that we could ever desire is available to us. We have to understand who we are. We have to know our bodies. We have to understand our wombs, understand our cycles, understand the herbs, understand the flowers, understand these gifts of the earth and what their properties are and what they do and how they can serve us when it comes to all of the different processes that are taking place within our body. And there are so many women out here in this world that are doing this deep work, that understand herbs, that understand how to make tinctures, who understand how to connect with the womb, how to talk to your body, to call in life, to release life, to let go of the things that are not in conjunction or in cooperation with your life's path and your life's purpose. Find the women in your field, pray for the women in your field to help you gain this knowledge if it's something that you're not connected to, because there are so many of us out there that are doing this work and that are helping women extract themselves from this parasitic system that teaches you that you don't have power and that you don't have rights unless they're handed to you by some system or by some entity or the government. Okay? So let me know how this lands for you. Let me know how this feels in your body to hear this spoken about in this new way. And I know that this is going to be very confronting for a lot of you, because you feel like and have been trained and conditioned and really brainwashed to feel like the only way to make change, the only way to see any type of shift in the collective is through the political system, which is the trap. That is the trap that keeps people stuck on this hamster wheel. This is the trap that keeps so many women, especially women on the left, women who call themselves feminists, who call themselves women's rights activists. It keeps these women stuck in cycles of misery and depletion, because the system is designed to siphon from you over and over and over and over again. The happiest women, the most empowered women, the most sovereign women are the women who understand that this system cannot give me anything and it cannot take anything away from me. And any belief that I have about that, or anything that I'm seeing in the collective around that, is evidence and the opportunity for me to deepen my connection to myself and my power, to connect to the women in my field And it may not be in your current environment, but you have women in your energetic field who are carrying this wisdom, who are carrying this knowledge, or you are the one that is carrying this wisdom and your knowledge. And it's your responsibility to find those women, to share that, or to educate yourself so that you feel whole and sovereign within yourself and you don't fear the changing of any laws in order for you to feel like you have power over yourself and your body, your reproductive choices, and your life. And so I want to know how this feels, how this lands in your system. And it is confronting. It is challenging to take on that responsibility, to take on that power and not give that away to outside governments and outside entities. It's very, very hard to do this. But this is what women are being asked for. And this is why women are being attacked on all sides by these systems. It's not because these systems are more powerful than us. It is so that from a spiritual perspective, we can pull back and say that I don't have to depend on this anymore. And I'm no longer giving the system power over me. I'm reclaiming my power and I'm reclaiming my sovereignty and I'm reclaiming my autonomy so that I do not have to live my life in fear, so that I don't have to fear the future of my daughters, so that I don't have to fear bringing new children or new life into this world because of what I'm seeing happening in the collective. I have the power to shift my consciousness and then shift the consciousness of everybody in my life, everybody in this world, and shift the consciousness of the life that I bring through me into this world. So if you love what I had to say or you don't love what I have to say, let me know in the comments. Let me know how it feels for you. If you want to go deeper into this work, if you're hearing what it is that I'm saying and it sounds very activating for you, it sounds empowering for you, and you want to know how you can release this dependency on obedience, how to recognize the ways in which you have been trained against your own autonomy and your own sovereignty. If you want to rise into that radical responsibility, if you want to come into deeper clarity for your soul's mission, if you want to understand how to first be in service to yourself and then be in service to the women in your life that need you, then check out my Selfish Bitch immersion. It's my Selfish Bitch initiation. That's a 21-day immersion that I'm starting on January 7th. So for 21 days, I'm going to be diving into so many of the concepts that I talked about in this video and teaching you about releasing your dependency on these systems, your conditioning around obedience and having to be the good girl and do the things that you're told and abdicating your authority to external forces, which has only caused you misery and suffering. And in this immersion, in this initiation that I'm going to be walking you through for 21 days, I'm going to be connecting you to that radical responsibility and the radical power from standing in and reclaiming this archetype of selfishness and full autonomy that is the seat from which you will get to create the most incredible life for yourself. So thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for dropping in with me. Let me know how you feel in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, let me know what else you'd like for me to talk about. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.